Democratic Socialists just had a phenomenal week out in New York City, where 3 progressive Democrats were able to take down their establishment corporate Democratic counterparts, and now they are well on their way to the House of Representatives. But we must turn our attention westward to the great city of Denver, Colorado, where a new progressive, Melat Kiros, is facing off against a corporate centrist Democrat Diane DeGette out in the city. And mark my words, you are going to be hearing Melat Kiros' name a lot in this upcoming week. She is a new rising star in the progressive movement, and she is getting slammed with these corporate-backed attack ads from Diane DeGette. So we're going to take a look at some of those because they are absolutely insane. All right, we've got one of the attack ads pulled up right here. Let's take a look.
When Melat Kiros moved to Denver last year, she brought an extreme agenda with her. She's endorsed by a group that wants to defund the Denver police, withdraw from NATO, and abolish the United States Senate. Even Kiros' social media is extreme, with the Denver Post piece calling it offensive and radical. That kind of extremism just isn't Denver.
Any proof?
And
No
Melat
proof? Okay.
Kiros just isn't Denver either. Project 218 is responsible for the content of this ad.
All right, so that's the ad. We're going to pause it right there, riddled with some lies, some like mistruths, some just like not even going into the details of anything. So first thing first, I just want to point out that this ad was actually, it's a project of the American Bridge PAC, which if you go to Wikipedia, I know it's Wikipedia, but they give some good information sometimes. American Bridge is actually a liberal American super PAC and an opposition research group that supports Democratic candidates and opposes Republican candidates. Just goes to show you that, you know, the interest of the corporate Democratic Party establishment is actually, you know, of course not on the side of a progressive candidate and will, you know, endorse, of course, you know, whatever mainstream, corporate Democrat they are looking at the time. Just goes to show you the vote blue no matter who crowd. But anyway, moving on into the ad itself, the first big lie that they talk about is when Melat Kiros moved to Denver last year. That's just not true. You just go to the front page of her website, it's not true. She was born in Ethiopia, okay? So she was born in Ethiopia, and then she moved with her family to the United States, where they ended up in Denver, Colorado. So she grew up there, right? And then she moved away to go to college, where she went to Washington College in Chestertown, Maryland, before then getting her degree from Notre Dame in 2022, where then she worked as an attorney in New York City, and then she got fired for writing an anti-Israel paper for her job, right? So she criticized Israel and then got fired, moved back to Denver, right, to get, I believe, her PhD. And she even talks a little bit about that in this interview that she did, and she talks about why she's back in Denver.
You were 1 year out of law school at a elite global law firm, is how they describe themselves, before you got fired for writing an essay that was critical of Israel. You came home to enroll in a PhD program. You've been working at a coffee shop. What life experiences and knowledge do you have to be effective in Congress?
Yeah. Well, the first I would describe as the life experience of just being a young renter in this city, you know, being a tipped minimum wage worker, and Denver is the 5th least affordable city in the country right now. And
right.
so experiencing what it's
we're going to pause it right there. We're going to hear a lot more from Melat Kiros in a little bit, but I just wanted to point that out that, so the ad immediately is lying. When she moved to Denver last year, she was raised in Denver, right? It's like just a person going to college and then coming back to their hometown. So first, lie number 1. And then they talk about this organization that she's a part of. Let me see if I can find it here. Yeah, she brought an extreme agenda, and she's part of this organization that wants to defund the police and abolish the Senate. You know who they're talking about there? They're talking about the Democratic Socialists of America, the largest progressive, organization in the country. They're just talking about the DSA. Right, which does actually push for defunding police or agencies, which at this point, we all know that what that means, right? Taking money away from overbloated police budgets and putting it towards social services. So again, just a ridiculous claim there. And then abolishing the Senate. Listen, if you really look into it, it might be something to consider. But either way. And then they talk a little bit about how, you know, she has these insane extreme posts, which they call offensive and radical. Proof. Where are they? What posts are you talking about? I've read the article. They don't talk about it. They just say that she has an offensive and radical publishing past. Is that because she's anti-Israel? Is that because that she's extremely just pro-Palestine and has this ideology that working people deserve to live? Is that the offensive radical ideology we're talking about here? The ad is just absurd. And again, it was put forward by a Democratic PAC. So, insane attack ad aside, Melat Kiros is a very strong candidate. She's supported by the DSA, she's got a great set of principles, and she would be an amazing fighter for the city of Denver in Congress. And during this same sit-down interview that we just took a look at, she talks a bit about how we already have democratic socialism in the United States. People just don't really get that.
That we already have socialism, right? It's in the roads that we drive on, it's in our fire stations, it's in the public schools we send our kids to. What I'm calling for is the same security that we have in those institutions to be in our healthcare, to be in our access to nutritional food, to be in making sure that we have universal child care and universal elder care. We're embarking on a new era right now where AI is going to change the entirety of our labor economy as we know it, and we're not ready. We're not ready for what it looks like when all these jobs potentially get taken away and wiped out by machinery. And if that happens, we need to make sure that people's basic needs are protected, and that's only through programs that would be socialist.
Exactly. We have socialism. Street sweepers and subsidizing beef and Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid and trains and firefighters and social workers and libraries and museums. That's socialism right there, but people don't see it that way because we've always had it, but that is socialism. People are just afraid of the word because they've been trained and indoctrinated into believing that socialist principles are evil and inherently want to screw you over, and even though, that's a lot of what capitalism is, but the fact of the matter is that the American State Department has been intentionally sinking left-wing, governments for the past 70 years and making it out to be this horrible, horrible system when democratic socialism is an extremely popular and working ideology across Europe, across many other nations. And people like Diane DeGette continue to support these centrist liberal principles that don't actually help anyone or make any meaningful change towards the cause.
The Congresswoman, I think, has really failed to meaningfully push the kind of progressive legislation that would make a meaningful difference for working families in this country. She, I believe, has failed to do so because she's taken millions of dollars from big pharma, big energy and oil, defense contractors.
What evidence do you have that she's changed a belief or refused to take a stand because of cash that she's received?
What I identify in her voting record and its relationship with some of the companies that support her is a direct relationship with either advancing their agenda or doing nothing to advance the agenda of working people. So, for example, she takes a lot of money from big pharmaceutical companies, from big health insurance companies, and the crowning achievement that she constantly touts is the Cures Act, a piece of legislation that frankly was just a big giveaway for a lot of big pharmaceutical companies. And Senator Warren and Senator Sanders both said this as this bill was getting debated.
So I took the time to look into Diana DeGette's campaign finances, and this 100% checks out. She has received $500,000 from PAC money just in the 2025-2026 cycle alone, which is over half of her income for her campaign. Now, honestly, that's better than a lot of other people, so I'll give it to her on that. But she has received over $300,000 from health-related PACs. Those are private insurance companies, right, for the most part. She's also received a bunch of money from lawyers and other lobbyist groups, energy and natural resources, and also MISC businesses and electronics and communications. A bunch of money from different PACs. And if you look at her top donators, they are all a bunch of private healthcare companies. We've got the American Podiatric Medical Association, we've got Delta Dental Plans, Laboratory Corps of America, Sheet Metal Air Rail Transportation Union, okay. And then you've got, American Neurology and Excel Energy, Abbott Laboratories. So Kiros is exactly right here. How can you trust a politician to actually fight for free healthcare or clean energy when they are getting thousands upon thousands of dollars from private health insurance and energy companies? It just doesn't make sense. And Melat Kiros is now getting attacked for calling that out, right? And she's not the only one that is facing these insane attack ads. Abdul Al-Sayed out in Michigan, who's running for Senate, is also receiving some smoke, but not from a fellow Democrat, but from Senate Republicans. But honestly, I see this as kind of a puff piece. Let me know what you think.
Meet Abdul El-Sayed.
I'm the only person on the stage who said it, and I have the courage to say that y'all apologize.
And that's not all. Abdul campaigned with anti-Israel radical Hassan Piker. He called to abolish private health insurance, and he's championing socialist tax hikes with Senator Bernie Sanders.
That's why we need Dr. Abdul El-Sayed in the Senate.
Too radical for Michigan.
So oh my gosh, he wants free healthcare, and he campaigned with Hassan Piker, who just successfully helped 3 progressives get elected into New York, and he's calling for the end to aid for Israel. How scary. What are we doing here? These are popular policy positions. It reminds me of this tweet I saw that it's like some conservative dork basically saying these progressives aren't even socialists anymore. These are communists. These are violent communists. And then a person responds to them being like, oh shit, oh fuck, I hope that the right wing doesn't start calling every Democrat a bunch of communists. That would be terrible. But because it's playing on the whole joke that that's what they've been doing for years. Obama was a communist. Hillary was a communist. Kamala the communist. Zoran the communist. Communist. It doesn't matter, right? We're all communists. So at this point, everyone's a communist to these fascist freaks, so you might as well be a democratic socialist and actually live up to the name a little bit and push for some social policy positions. Not actually be a communist, but be a socialist, be a democratic socialist. Have these socialist principles worked into your policy. But putting that all aside, right, for the time being, Colorado has some big elections coming up on Tuesday, and mark my words, you will hear the name Melat Kiros a lot more in the next week, so be sure to go show her some support. And also, there's other great candidates running as well, like Julie Gonzalez, Phil Weiser, and David Seligman. These are all more left-leaning candidates challenging their opponents. And if you agree that you want to see someone like Melat Kiros and more progressives in Congress, be sure to join our fight here at US Democratic Socialists by subscribing to the channel, leaving a like on this video, and also commenting your thoughts about this down below. I would love to hear about them. But I think it's going to do it for me. I'm Iago Lashua. Have a good day. Goodbye.